This is Community Action Food Bank in Provo. Since the recession began, this and other Utah food banks have seen a 40% rise in business from those who suffer from food insecurity, otherwise known as hunger. I met with Eric Lafferty of Community Action to talk about why. Thanks for joining us, Eric.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
So let's say that my neighbor suffered from hunger. They didn't have enough money to pay for food. Is that something that I would realize was going on, or would you say it's more of a hidden problem?
It happens every day. People don't always want to ask for the help that they need. And so it's very common that a lot of these things are going unseen by local neighbors, even family members.
With 420,000 people in Utah suffering from hunger, that means 15% of your neighborhood block deals with food insecurity. But why don't we notice?
It's interesting to look at who these individuals are. The research has shown that 80% of these people have a job. These families have a job, and 70% of them have a full-time job.
In Utah, there are 51,000 more people suffering from hunger than those suffering from poverty. But why is that? So what's the difference between hunger and poverty then?
Hunger is a symptom of poverty. When you start looking at bills, when people are paying for certain things, food is usually the last thing that comes when people are paying bills, not only for the low-income families, but for middle-income families.
So would you say that the poverty line is too low in America?
There's no doubt. For a family of four, the poverty threshold line, as stated by the federal guidelines, is $22,350. When you start looking at the cost of rent, fair market rent across the board, expenses such as medical expenses, food, insurance, when you start looking at those things, food is the last thing that comes on the budget.
And the Utah hunger rates reflect how the country is doing as a whole.
And our hunger rates and our poverty rates are extremely low when you start looking at third world countries. However, even though it might be 6 or 10% of the population, you're still talking about hundreds of millions of people.
If you think of the United States globally and its economy, you have to wonder, why does Utah, or any other state for that matter, still have problems with hunger?
That's a complex question. You can look at a lot of factors, wages being one of them. Our economy just isn't super strong right now.
And the answer to this complex question, Lafferty says, includes politics, location, and even class.
For the majority of Americans, for the middle class, they've only seen their income rise 11% over the last 30 years. If you look at the top 5% of income earners, they increased by 42%. So the middle class is disappearing. And so it's very difficult for these families to be able to provide for the needs that they have.
What's the best way for people to help themselves get out of hunger and poverty?
That's an interesting question, kind of a loaded question. That's assuming that people are in this situation because of choices they made, which isn't always the case. I think one thing that's important to realize is that these people are trying. And because of a few individuals that people might see in the stereotypes that exist, people automatically assume that these people aren't doing their part.
Okay, what could others do?
Be educated. It's important for people to understand that hunger isn't just an issue that happens in Africa or overseas. There's a lot of people that struggle with hunger here in the United States. It is a hidden hunger. A lot of people don't see it.
And many experts agree with Lafferty that if we don't do something about hunger now, it will affect us for years to come.
And I look at it as an investment, Jeff. When people look at things like food stamps and other subsidies like free or reduced lunches, they're not looking at the cost to society that exists on the back end. If these people don't have the food and the nutrients they need, such as these children, not only does it cause health effects now, but can cause health effects down the road, which will become increasingly more expensive years from now.
What's the most important thing for people to understand about hunger?
No, it's very important for people to understand that hunger exists here in our community, that poverty exists, it's on the rise, and there's things that we can do to help combat that. And it's supporting organizations that actually are making a difference in the community, and to look how they can help locally. People are always looking for the bigger, better opportunity to serve, when in fact there's opportunities right here in our own backyard to help make a difference.
I'm Jeff Merrill. Thanks for watching.